with building generational wealth, you need money to start. It just doesn't happen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the show. Today, I've got a very special guest with us today. I am here with Chantel Nyame-Bankole. She is an author and a financial literacy educator for young people from the ages of 5 to 16 years old. Her most recent accomplishments include the launch of her 5 financial literacy resources that include Generational Wealth, a guide for parents to help build wealth for their children, Financial Education Vocabulary Workbook for the ages of 5 years and above, Financial Education Vocabulary Workbook for the ages of 7 years and above, and a Financial Literacy Workbook for the age of 13 years and above. She also has produced some financial education flashcards for the age groups of 5 years and above, and also for the age groups of 7 years and above. Now, the core aim of Chantel's resources is to encourage financial empowerment and to inject the importance of financial literacy into the community. Now, Chantel believes that it's very important for financial literacy to be introduced much earlier on in a child's life and for it to be part of the process of a child's curriculum of development. Chantel's desire is for children to be very well equipped with adequate financial education in order for them to make well-informed and smarter financial decisions before they embark on adulthood, where the skill and the knowledge is most vital. So Chantel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Now, you've got a very interesting story that I think is very valuable for the community to know about. And it started around 2020, so just over a year ago. So would you mind sharing with our listeners, what started you on this journey?
So besides the whole starting of it in 2020, I would say there's been things that have happened before that has kind of led to, things just popping off in 2020, should I say. So I would say it all started off when I was in uni, which was like 2009. Like I had this really bad habit where, I would work, because I was working part-time then. I would work. When I come back home for the summer, I would work, save up all my money, and then I'll go on holiday, blow it all and come back broke and just start from scratch again. So I did that about 2 or 3 times. And my mom was like, yeah, we need to have a conversation. Like she sat me down and she was like, you can't keep doing this. This is just not life. Like you need to actually put money aside for like rainy days. So when I had that conversation with my mom, and funny enough, she only had to have that conversation with me once. And then I was like, you know what, she's right, So from then, that's when I would say my skill of saving money started. That's where it was like, I just kept saving money from my job. So I put money aside. And then I just started to enjoy it as I see that my money was growing each month. So I thought, okay, this is actually making sense. So I kind of cut back on the holidays. And that was where savings started. And then from there, it was like, okay, so what am I going to do with, the money I'm saving? So from the start, I knew that, okay, I would like to invest in property. I would like to buy a home and stuff. And from there, but obviously, because I was working part-time, I wasn't really able to save a substantial amount to be able to do that at the time. So I just felt like, okay, I'm still a bit slowed down anyway, until I started working full-time, where my disposable income was a bit more and I was able to save a bit more. And then from there, I just started to, I came across this financial literacy seminar, whereby that's where everything kickstarted in terms of whether my knowledge was further built, and then the resources followed. But in terms of like, should I say like what actually pushed me the most, or, I think the areas in which I feel like, okay, I need to do something about this is the fact that I've had to spend so many years like trying to save for just a deposit. Even that was like a pain point for me. And also not knowing what other investment options were available to me due to the lack of knowledge, because no one spoke about investing at home, that conversation was never had, so I was just clueless. All I knew is I'm just saving money and that's it. And everybody knows that with savings, even if you put it in a savings account, the bank is not really giving you much interest, so your money's not really growing due to inflation. In the next 5 years, your savings won't be as much as it was at the time where you started saving, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that I would say is where the journey all started. Just having no form of education, knowledge in schools, we weren't taught nothing. Uni, college, nothing about financial literacy was introduced. So, when I got to that point where, okay, I'm saving money, but what's next, is where I think the drive to find out more, like what else can I do, came from, basically. So yeah, I would say that's where it all started. And then in 2020, when I had my first child, I think that's where everything just started kickstarting, because I just started to think, okay, you've got a child now, you're responsible for a whole human being. Like, you need to put certain things in place. And my main thing was, I don't want my child to go through what I've had to go through, like not knowing what options are available to them in terms of generational wealth and stuff. So yeah, so just wanted to leave behind something that not only my child or children can benefit, but other people's children can also benefit from that as well. So yeah.
I mean, I think that's awesome. And when you got to that point, what was the trigger point for you that helped you decide that, right, I need to create some resources to get this out there?
Yeah, so after my son was born, that was where I was looking at ways for myself and my son to be able to put certain things in place for him. So the first thing I knew that even before he was born, I knew I was definitely going to do was his child benefit money. I knew that I wasn't going to touch that. I thought as soon as he's born, I'm opening up an account for him, and that money is just going to go straight into his account, the child benefit money. And I was even thinking, like, any monetary gifts that he gets, all of that, I'm not touching. As far as I'm concerned, it's not my money, it's for my son. So I'm just going to put that straight in. And I also had plans to sign him up to a modeling agency, which I did. And any money he made from that, I just put it straight in his account it was like his little pot of money that I was building for him. So yeah, so I did that. And then I was thinking of other ways that I could, set him up. And then I thought, okay, hold on. Life insurance is also another way I could do it. If I can set up a life insurance policy there, touch wood, if anything happens to me, he'll be able to have money to sort out the funeral, and also some left over for, to further, build generational wealth in whatever he wants to do, basically. And then as I was gathering all this information, on how I can, build wealth for him and stuff, because I was writing all of this down, basically, because obviously I like to just refer back to things. And I was thinking, hold on, I've got something here, I'm going to do this. And I thought, maybe I should just put this all in a book as a guide. And I'm sure other parents are thinking, I don't know where to start, and this will be quite useful for them. So that's where the idea of the book came in. I thought, okay, if I can just write this down and just basically do more research into each topic area, so then I know I'm not, giving out wrong information, then I can put it all in a guide and then just, sell it out and see if whoever's interested can, get something from it. So I had to even do separate research on how to publish a book, because I had no idea how that worked. So I had to now, find out how can I publish a book. And so I did that research, and then that's where that began. And then from there, that's when all the other resources were birthed from that, basically.
That's great. So when you did this and you started producing this material, obviously, as you're putting down your ideas and the book is taking shape, you begin to get a bigger vision of where you want to take this. So what was your vision for parents to build wealth for their children as you started creating this material and just getting the structure for the book and sort of solidifying your ideas?
Yeah, so my vision was really to, I feel like, enable for children in our generation to be able to, understand these financial literacy terms and the concepts and everything. Their parents will need to probably be the first point of call to teach them that. So I thought, okay, that's, the book being the first point of, the first thing for me to release. So once the parents have an idea of how to build wealth, then they can now transfer that knowledge onto the children. So my vision is really for parents to have a great understanding of how it all works, and then introduce it to their children at a much earlier stage, because if they know what it is, they can then let them know, like, okay, this is what this is. But if you have a case where parents don't really know what to do, their kids will never really be introduced to that. Like, for example, with me, because my parents didn't have that knowledge, it was never spoken about at home. But if your parents have that knowledge and they understand the importance of it, they will make sure they're having these conversations at the right time to make sure that you're on the right track. So yeah, so my vision is really for parents to have a great understanding. And then I will supply them with tools to be able to educate their children, which is the flashcards and the workbooks. Those are the tools that I've created for parents to support their children in understanding these terms further, basically, because, parents may have the knowledge, but they may need a bit more help in, okay, so how do I explain this to my child? Like passive income, what's the simplest way of doing it? So that's why I've created all these other resources, just to give them like a much easier way to, explain certain things to their children. So that's the vision. Parents have a great understanding. That understanding is then passed on to the children. And then obviously when their children become adults, that cycle continues. They're adults, we're parents now, we're going to do the same thing for our kids. And that's where the generational wealth, just keeps going on after generation. So yeah, so that was my vision, really. Yeah, that's my vision.
Definitely. I can see what you mean with that. And as you put that together, because when you're creating a vision of that nature for parents, there's so many different things that you can focus on. And then I can appreciate that as you were doing that, you were thinking, oh, should I include this? Or maybe I should include this, or maybe should I include that? Yeah. So when you eventually brought it down to what you wanted to have as content for that book, you came up with a foundation of a couple of things. You were looking at finance, you were looking at good credit scores, you touched on life insurance, you touched on estate planning and financial education. So for these specific areas, what was your unique insight into these areas that you wanted to communicate to these parents?
Yeah. So with the finance part and savings part, really, I just wanted to give parents like a simple way of, this is a unique, different way in which they can think of saving money for themselves and their kids. So for example, like I just mentioned with the whole child benefit thing, there's some parents, they don't really think to save that. They just think it's a child benefit. I'm just going to use that to buy clothes for my child or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I felt like that's a great avenue to build wealth for the child. So I felt like, so what I did for myself was I calculated, because I think you get child benefit up until the child is 18. So I just did the math, like if I was to get this amount for the next 18 years, what would I get at the end? Just, a rough figure. And when I saw the amount at the end, I thought, wow, this would be a good amount to be able to have when your child is 18. They can use that as a down payment for a house, or, maybe to start a business, or whatever is financially sensible to do at the time when they reach 18 or older, So I was just trying to provide them with tips on ways that they can, try and save as much money, because I feel with building generational wealth, you need money to start. It just doesn't happen. You need to save money. Even if you want to, for example, let's say one of the conventional ways that people invest is, buying a home, for example. You need a deposit and you need money for that deposit. So once you have the money, then you can start investing in whatever it is you need to do. But in order to get that money, you need to master the skill of saving money in the first place. So I just gave them a little bit of money management tips in ways in which they can, try and save money or make a bit more money to be able to start the wealth building process. So that's for the finance and the savings part of it. And then with the credit scores, the reason why I really wanted to add that in there is because I feel like when you're much younger, there's a lot of things that sometimes we get involved in activities where it can damage our credit and we have no idea we're doing it. So for example, like you might have bills that you don't pay on time or you don't pay them at all, and you have no idea that this is actually affecting your credit. And then you get to an age where maybe you're trying to rent a property or you're trying to buy a property and it's like, oh, you've got a CCJ. Oh no, it's affecting your ability to upscale sort of thing. So I wanted to shed light on that so people can understand that much earlier on, try and pay attention to your credit score. So I broke it down a little bit, not into too much detail, but just gave them like a rough summary of what credit scores entail, what it means, and what they should be paying attention to. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to touch up on credit scores, because I feel like, again, in my own household, it was never spoken about. I didn't know what credit scores was until I was a little bit older. And luckily for me, because I didn't really have any credit anyway, I've never really damaged my credit, but I felt it was important for me to touch up on that in the book so that people are aware that, okay, I have to make sure I pay my bills on time and not miss payments, because it can affect me later, especially if you want to invest in property, or maybe you might want a business loan, and because of your credit, it's affecting, your ability to jump on such investment opportunities. And then life insurance, I must say, was one of the key important ones for me to include in that book, because everything is based on my own life. I didn't really know the importance or the level of importance of life insurance. Again, something that was never spoken about at home. And I felt like, yes, I need to include this, because I feel it's one of the easy ways to try and have generational wealth injected into your family. So, for example, let's say you, all your life as a parent, you haven't really had an opportunity to accumulate any assets for your kids. But if you've been paying into your life insurance policy for, I don't know, 10, 20 years, whatever, and touch wood, or if something happens to you, that's another way of, leaving something behind for your kids. So they can use that to pay for your funeral, and there's money left over for them to, at least make something of themselves after that, basically. So, because in case there's some people, not everyone gets to accumulate assets in their lifetime. Not everyone has that. So if you at least have life insurance in place, when you're gone, you've at least left something behind for your dependents or your beneficiaries and stuff like that. So that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to include life insurance. And I feel like when you have conversations with people, like, do you have life insurance? Like, no. Like, is it important? Like, I just wanted people to understand that, please try and get life insurance. Like, it's definitely, it's important. And then finally, the financial education, which I think tops everything for me personally, is the fact that I feel financial education is more important than the assets you leave behind for your kids or whoever, because I feel that knowledge is what will enable them to understand how important that asset is, how to attain those assets, how to maintain it, and pass it on to the next generation. Without that knowledge, if you leave stuff behind, they might not know how to manage it, and they could lose it, or they just wouldn't understand the value of it. So that's why with me, I just think that the financial education is the most important. I think that alone is passing on generational wealth itself as well. Like, even if you haven't been able to leave anything, leave them with that knowledge, and they will be able to build up from there, if that makes sense. So so that's why for me, I just feel, and that's where obviously the whole resources were born from as well. Like, if you have these educational resources available, even for parents who they feel like, oh, I haven't had a chance to, leave my kids with a house or an investment account or whatever, just give them resources from young and let them learn from a young age. And by the time they get to adulthood, they have that knowledge. They can do it for themselves if you haven't been able to put something in place, and I just say it's not anybody's fault. Sometimes in life, if you're not introduced to certain things, what can you do? But if you can give somebody this is what I used in my book. I said, you can give a man a fish, but you feed him for the day. But if you give him, I forgot what I put in my book, but basically, if you give them the understanding of how to do something, they can do it themselves, and they can feed themselves for a lifetime. So that's the whole point. Like, so for me, financial education is the is the key, because I feel that's what's helped me understand things more, and I've been able to build from that and create things based on just the financial education that I educated myself with. So yeah, so I would say that's probably one of my favorite parts in the book, just the financial education aspect.
I really like what you said there, because it is all about that knowledge. It's about that insight. It's about that wisdom, and just the ability to use that information to build something, not just for yourself, but for those that come after you. And this is why I also liked the fact that you touched on estate planning as well, because that's a very essential part of that as well.
Yes.
So that's great. So I've got to ask as well, and it'd be really good for those listening to this to hear from you about. So since producing the book, the workbooks and the flashcards, what are some of the testimonies that you've received as a result of doing these things?
Yeah. So I've had quite a lot of people been very impressed with what I've come up with, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I think it's because it's a little bit rare within the UK. It's even people that are financial educators or financial advisors, they haven't actually produced anything in that kind of way. So I think I've had quite a few people oh my God, this is so amazing. I could get this for my kids, etc. But one testimony that sticks out to me personally was when I first launched the book, probably in the first month, I got a message on Instagram from this lady. She's a mother of two. And she was like, hey, I read your book. It's so amazing. And I just wanted to let you know that I've opened up 2 junior ISA accounts for my 2 children, and I've started also saving their child benefit. That was wow. The fact that my book has actually influenced someone to take action in securing the financial future for her children is just amazing. The fact that she probably wasn't thinking about that before, but after reading my book, she's actually gone out there and taken the steps. And I thought, wow, this is actually really amazing. That in particular really touched me. I felt okay, so I've potentially made a difference in her kid's life. If they're able to get access to generational wealth because of what their mother started with, it's because of my book. She read my book, she took action, and now they're benefiting from it, So that really, really touched me. That's, until date, that's probably one of the ones that stands out, because most people, they will come to you and say, oh, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that not only did she mention that it's amazing, but she told me what she had done based on the knowledge she's attained from the book. So it was, that was a really nice comment. It really did make me happy. So yeah, that's a testimony that definitely stands out to me till date.
That's wonderful to hear. Because in one of my previous episodes, I said that, often you can tell how good a father is or mother is by looking at their children, but you can tell how great a mother or father is by not looking at their children, but by looking at their grandchildren, because the grandchild is the evidence of what you taught that your child. So the fact that your material is getting out there and doing this is great to hear. So it's great hearing what feedback you heard from a parent, but have you received any feedback specifically from children that has particularly touched you?
If I'm honest, not directly from children. What I have is their parents would let me know the feedback, and most of them send me videos of their kids going through the flashcards or going through the workbook, because I think some of the kids are quite young. So I think they might not be able to express the feedback as much, but most of them is just sending me videos of or tagging me in videos of their kids going through the flashcards. And I remember one mother, she tagged me in a video where she was asking her child, what is passive income? And her child would actually say what it is based on what she's learned from the card. And that again just made me feel wow, she probably wouldn't have learned this in school or anything. And the fact that, she now knows what passive income is based on the resources that I've created, it just makes you feel okay, I'm doing something right, or I've done something to benefit, the younger generation. But I'm hoping to hear from kids soon, especially with the 13 plus workbooks, because I feel like 13-year-olds may be able to kind of let me know, like, okay, yeah, this was really good or whatever. But yeah, that's something I'm yet to get, actually, like, feedback from the kids and the children actually using the workbooks itself. But mostly it's their parents that reach out to me. So yeah.
All right. What we're going to do now, Chantel, is we're going to go to a slightly different part of the show that I call Build or Baffle. So this is just a series of very quick fire questions that you can answer sort of 15 seconds or less. And why it's called Build or Baffle is that the answers that you give will either be something that will build the listener or something that will baffle them, in a sense that, oh, they didn't, or they weren't expecting to hear this thing, something new. So I'll just go through a couple of these here and just answer them as you like. So first one, is there a topic that you would like to write about if you could, and why?
I would say, I think, oh God, this is this is so hard. It would probably be still within the financial literacy area, but it's because I haven't tapped into that thought process yet. But yeah, I would say it's still financial literacy, but I'm not 100% sure just yet. But yeah, that's a good question, actually.
All right, second one. Where is the most surprising place one of your resources has reached? If you know.
That would be Canada. Yeah, I would say for me, Canada, because most of my people that buy my stuff are in the UK. But when I saw that someone in Canada reached out to me, I thought, oh, wow, okay, like I'm actually going global. So yeah, I would say Canada, yeah, definitely.
What person do you consider an inspiration and why?
I would pick a lady called Patricia Bright. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's roughly around my age, and she's really into personal finance, and she's just amazing. She's doing, she's all about empowerment and just trying to make sure young women like myself, do the best they can within their community, and just, yeah, she's just into the whole financial literacy stuff. So I learn a lot from her. So she's definitely one of my inspirational individuals.
And what book changed the game for you?
Oh, that's easy. Rich Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
That book just killed it for me. Like, honestly, I read that book in like a week, literally. Like, I was just like, okay, this is good. Like, honestly, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I would recommend anybody to, if you have time, please do try and read that book. It will definitely help.
I second that. I mean, I remember the first time I read that, I walked around like a zombie. I was very happy and very angry at the same time.
Yeah.
And finally,
honestly,
and the final question I've got for you is, with what you now know and with how you've evolved, what would you say to your 7-year-old self if you could face her right now?
Ooh, I would say, my 7-year-old self, I would say, read and do research. I would say read and do research. Yeah, I'll just say read and do research. Like, just read as much as you can. Like, read and do research. Research into how you can better your life and do the best you can. I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
That's great. And Chantel, for the listeners here, what's the best way that people can follow you or your work, and how can they purchase your material?
Oh, okay. So I'm really active on Instagram. So hopefully the listeners do have Instagram pages. And that's my Instagram page is Shanty, CHANTY, 2 underscores. So Shanty _ Shan. So yeah, you can find me there. And I usually put updates on whatever I've got going on. If I've got any offers or any Christmas deals or any new launches, that's where I usually post it. And in terms of where to purchase my resources, most of them are on Amazon. So if you just put in the title of the book, you can get it from there. However, the flashcards, they are not on Amazon, they are on Etsy. So if you go on Etsy, I've got links, so I can probably provide that, so they can just directly click on the link. But yeah, so it's just Amazon and Etsy. And also I do provide bulk, if you want to buy it in bulk as well, I do offers on that as well. So you get like a discounted rate if you want it in bulk, because some people approach me to buy some of the resources for schools or for Christmas gifts or whatever. So if you're buying more than like 5 or 10, I'm happy to give like a discount as well. So yeah.
That's great. I would say to everyone, definitely go out and get a copy of the book if they can. I've got a copy here as well. Chantel, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, honestly.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. You know, you've provided today, I feel, a lot of inspiration and information and encouragement for people, you know, for parents, families, and children, really just to get moving and get going, because it's so important. And I think what you've done is you've just become, in many ways, just a light for people to look at and see that, you know what, there's somebody actually doing this and doing great work. So I commend you for what you've done, and just thank you for sharing what you've done today. Really, really appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. Thank you.
You're very welcome.